NFL draft cabin fever continuing. It's in full effect. I think we're all getting a little bit anxious for this thing. 3 weeks, we can see it, but we can't. So close, so far away, and the dialogue is wild. Want you to partake in that dialogue. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610, which also happens to be the home of the Texans, although they let us talk bad about them quite often. But it's been a pretty good offseason, I would say, up to this point. I think the vibes are pretty good. The mood is good. The cabin fever has people expecting the worst. It's come to be expected with everything that's gone on the last couple of years. But we got a lot to get into today. We're going to get into the report of Frank Reich. Maybe he likes Anthony Richardson. That would be crazy. The number one pick odds, they jumped. Is it really that big of a deal? What should we make of that? And we're going to get the Crumpy CJ Stroud report from John Crumpler, who joins me now. Crumpy, what's up, man? You have fallen in love with CJ Stroud.
I mean,
I can see it.
Strong. I like him, though. I've definitely talked myself into that's the right pick at number 2, but love is a strong word.
I don't know. I read your report. I've been talking to you a little bit. I've been reading it. I kind of feel like love is the right word here with CJ Stroud, and a lot of people agree with you. There's a lot to love. He's still the overwhelming favorite. Not overwhelming, but he's a strong favorite to be the number one pick. Let's get into how you came about this report, what you found in this report, what the good was, what the bad was, and we'll just cuss and discuss, and I'll throw the curveballs your way, your CJ Stroud report, and tell the people where they can go read it as well, for the people who might actually still read these. There's not a lot of them these days.
I know. Yeah, guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name's John Crumpler. I write over on the Texans Wire, and this week I did drop my full CJ Stroud scouting report, both the prospect profile, a little on his background, and his fit with Houston. And I'll just start with, really impressive story how he got here. So when he's 13, his father was sentenced 38 years in prison, and he didn't get to start in high school until he was a junior, which was crazy to me. But from there, after his first season, he became a 3-star player, went to the Elite 11 and beat Bryce Young for MVP. And then during his senior season, elevated to 5-star status and went to Ohio State. And Landry, I went back to the film and I'm watching it. And when we look at CJ Stroud and why you say I've fallen in love with him, why I started to talk so well about the guy, someone who obviously played extremely well at Ohio State. He checks every box from what we traditionally see for a quarterback that's going to go number 1 or a quarterback that's going to go in the top 5 of the NFL draft. He is your prototypical size. He's got a great arm. It's not going to be an elite arm. It's not a top 5 arm in the league, but it's big enough that he's going to make every throw on the field. He's going to get the most out of his receivers. It's not one where defensive backs are going to dare you to beat them. He is the most accurate passer in the draft. I think he's a little more accurate than Bryce Young when the picture is clean, which is an important caveat because in the NFL, we know, especially with the Texans interior last year, it doesn't always look like that. And I think he was also in an offense that did not ask him to do a lot this past season. And when you put those things together, and I see, especially when we look at that Michigan and Georgia game, I see someone who's a good athlete, who's an extremely accurate, powerful thrower of the football, and someone who I thought read the field pretty well when he was asked to do that. Of course, when you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., I think it's easy to look down the first guy and wait for him to get open. But I see a guy who has a lot of room to grow. And the things that you question, which is the play extension and his, how creative can he be in the league? I think he's going in the right direction, and he's going to be taken out of a scheme where I don't think Ryan Day wanted him to do that a lot. So that's why I kind of fell in love with the player, like you talked about.
Okay. Tyler's asking about the Pivot podcast with him. I watched that last year. I actually tweeted about it last year. So I know Seth just talked about it today. I love Seth, but yeah, hey. So a year ago, Seth. Come on, man. It was him and Bijan. It was that they were both actually rocking athletes first shirts. And you can tell he's a really good dude. CJ Stroud. I don't think the character's anything, but yeah, I watched the Pivot podcast and tweeted about it like a year ago. So is he your quarterback one? Have you fallen in love with him to that point?
No, Bryce. So this is what I would say. I think CJ Stroud is a great pro quarterback prospect. He's someone I would take in the top 5 with no hesitation. Bryce Young is special. Bryce Young makes me feel something, which maybe that's conflating my scouting process.
Oh, that's kind of a creepy report. What does that mean?
It just means like when you watch Bryce Young.
What are we doing here?
Did you ever feel like Alabama was going to lose the game when you were watching Bryce Young?
No.
No.
Against Texas for a little bit, I kind of convinced
myself. That's fair. That's fair for you. But when I watch Bryce, it's just a guy who inspires confidence, and he does some things that you really can't teach. Bryce is still my QB1 for sure. If I had my choice, I'd like to see him on the Texans. But I think Stroud is at a point where the organization should not hesitate to pivot if they have to. That's how I would have it. So he's kind of I'm not going to call it a 1B. He's my number 2. I definitely have him below Bryce Young, but he's on that same tier of what I would do if I was the Texans.
Yeah, and the character's big. He was in town. They're obviously doing their homework on the quarterbacks. It seems like they like Bryce. That's just what kind of the sense you get. It seems like Carolina likes CJ. But there's 3 weeks. I mean, I don't know. Like, I want to go back and say, when did we know that Walker was going to be number 1? I want to say it was close to 2 weeks where it was like, okay. And then there was like a huge explosion, but I want to say it was around there then when we knew that he was going to be it.
Yeah. I mean, I think this might've been around the time when people said there's some value in Walker, that they really liked him. But yeah, I don't think we knew till a little close to the draft. Landry, I can't even be the crump. I'm the crumpy.
Not crumpy, man. The crump. You're crumpy. That's what I call. That's what I call you, crumpy. The crump is kind of like super bad type of vibe. The crumpy report. You put a Y at the end of it. It's good.
It's a little more friendly.
I can't call people by their governments. I always have to give everyone a nickname. So
fair enough. I do want to say one more thing on Stroud is that I feel really good about him in this system. I think Bobby Slowick's West Coast, if it's a Shanahan scheme, it's going to be a lot of quick rhythm timing stuff. And I think, especially from a clean pocket with the tackles we have, I think he can execute that as well as anyone. And I think it kind of gives him some more time to that's terrible, Frank. I think it gives him some more time to really get a feel for how he wants to extend plays at the NFL level. So I still love Bryce, but I think Stroud does enough that there is no way you should be considering punting on quarterback for another season.
And that seems to be the popular topic. I've wondered, what they think, like what their gap is between, assuming that Bryce is their number 1 guy, and who knows, what their gap is between, say, Stroud and Levis or Richardson, like what their gap is there. Because I think that's where you start wondering, like, do you trade back or something? And all those scenarios that we're hearing, like the Will Andersons and that type of stuff.
I'm going to have a heart attack on draft night. That's the route they go.
Well, the good thing is you don't have to wait too long. You'll have a pretty good idea. Like, as soon as the commissioner announces the draft, you got 10 minutes, and then we'll have a pretty good idea, maybe, depending on what happens. Something that happened today, for quite a while, Bryce has been 3-1 to be the top pick. For a little while, he was a co-favorite with CJ at -110, and then it kind of jumped back up, and people immediately were wondering what that meant. I don't know that it's really as big of a deal as a lot of people think. I think just the small chance maybe that Bryce is picked, you can't have him up there at 3-1 for as long for that long, to where you just kind of even it out, because at some point, I mean, I don't think they're getting a lot of wagers on that, especially with the odds, but people might sprinkle 1,000 or 100. I think Pendergast put 100 on Bryce Young at 3.5 to 1, to where, from the casino's standpoint, like, the casino's never going to put all their eggs in one basket. A lot like the perfect casino, money is like 55-50 or 60-40. And when they're too far on one side, they get a little bit uncomfortable.
They get hurt.
So yeah. I think they, and the odds kind of went back in the direction of CJ closer to 2-1 afterward. shot and not wanting to take that L as it did, Bryce being the number one pick. Now, if Bryce goes up to like a significant favorite like Walker did last year, then that's where you get the attention. But at this point, I think that I don't think it's like that huge of a deal.
I mean,
and they might have also suckered some Bryce money too with that movement. They might have suckered some Bryce or CJ money with that movement.
Well, I think the real money is going to go where you can find value. And right now, all the money has probably been coming in on Bryce. Like, why would anyone bet CJ Stroud minus 350? It's not good odds. It's not a sure thing. If it was a sure thing, Vegas doesn't even have this on the board. So I'd understand it from their perspective of, hey, Bryce has a lot of noise around him. You've got, Lance on the NFL Network, Chris Mortensen today, Adam Schefter. A lot of the big national reporters are still pretty convinced Bryce is going to be the guy. I mean, heck, I bet on Bryce while he was plus 250. I think
they're convinced Bryce is going to be number one.
Yeah. I mean, everyone still says they think he's the top player. They don't believe that there's enough to suggest it won't be him until it happens. Despite, I mean, and I tweeted about this earlier in the week. Whenever we talk about CJ Stroud at number one, of course, the local reporting came out, and that's what we've kind of based this in. But a lot of the conversation right now is just speculation that Frank Reich isn't going to want to work with a shorter quarterback, and he's the easiest guy to build consensus around. So, I mean, I bet on Bryce Young minus 2, a little emotional hedge in case he doesn't come to Houston. I put
plus
some money on that.
Right? Plus 250. Yeah.
I'm kind of sad I bet it the day before CJ Stroud's pro day. And during the pro day, when McCown went up and hugged him, it went up to like plus 330. So wish I'd waited just a little bit longer, but
I still think it's going to be CJ. Like, I really do. I
hope so, man.
I think Bryce is the best guy, but I think it's going to be CJ. I will say though, like, it wouldn't shock me if they completely pivoted if it happened. Now, I know you say, CJ is not that much. I just don't. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if the top quarterback's not there. I mean, and I also don't think that it means that you tank either. Like, you're going to have enough like draft equity and you have a better team to where you can maybe still compete a little bit.
So just a question for you. In your big board, what's your gap between Bryce and CJ Stroud? How many players are separating him for you?
For Bryce and CJ Stroud, like, if I had to pick, is trading back an option?
Oh, I guess I'm just asking, like, how much of a difference do you perceive in the two players right now?
Bryce and CJ, I wouldn't take CJ at 2. I can be talked into it, but
would you take Will Anderson? Are you passing?
I would trade.
Okay, you would trade.
Yeah, I would trade with the Raiders or the Falcons or something like that, because it's a complete game changer when they know that they could get CJ. I think you would get like the Raiders. Raiders have seemed to like them, and then or the Falcons or something like that. So go 2 to 8. But if they like CJ enough and Slowick and them like CJ enough, then I wouldn't like pound the table. Like, I'm not. It's not like if they took Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, where I would just kind of freak out.
And I feel like this point is why it shouldn't be surprising to us that, I mean, we both think Bryce Young's firmly the number one quarterback on the board. And I won't be surprised at all if Carolina pivots, like you're saying, because if you want the best player, probably the guy that suited up for Bama last season.
Yes, no doubt. I saw Jimmer asked about Chris Mortensen, and we played this on the show the other day. Mortensen came out and said the Panthers are 100% in on Bryce. He did not say that. You got to watch the whole thing. What is the idea that Landry is pushing that Stroud is still the favorite? Well, Vegas has him as still the favorite, and Mortensen said that he thought that McShay and Kiper were going to be wrong, and then as soon as Kiper said Mort said it 100%, Mort said, no, I didn't say that. So it seems like Frank and McCown like CJ, but I mean, it could all change, but Mortensen did not 100% say. As a matter of fact, when Kiper said he said that, he kind of pushed back a little bit on that.
I mean,
also, man, they need to. I love Mort, but man, they need to tone that down a little bit. My man. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, man, but it's like, because at least Corso has Herb Street up there helping him and like guiding him, and it's kind of like endearing. But man,
Mort
was struggling
sometime.
Yeah, Mort was struggling. Wild Thing Music, and I love Mort. Which current starting QBs in the AFC are Bryce Young or CJ Stroud better than?
This is kind of a fun question.
Okay, what starting QBs in the AFC? I'll bring this up right now. And we can
Mahomes, Herbert from the West.
Lamar Who are Jackson. They better than?
Oh, who are they better than? Oh, I thought we were working from the other way. Who are they better than? This is a much harder question. Wouldn't it be easier to say who do we think they're worse than? I feel like they're going to be better than a lot of guys.
In the AFC? Okay.
They're better than – okay, let's just –
I'll go down.
Okay.
Russell Wilson.
Okay. So we think –
yes or no? No, you just say yes or no. I'll let you be the – Russell Wilson.
Yes, until proven otherwise, probably.
Okay, Mahomes, no.
Herbert,
Jimmy
no.
Garoppolo?
Yes,
Garoppolo?
Absolutely.
Herbert, no. Gardner Minshew?
Absolutely. Not Trevor Lawrence.
Tannehill, no. Not yet. Come on. I mean, are
you taking Tannehill in what we saw last year in one game over one of these guys?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
I guess Lamar Jackson? No.
No, yeah, definitely not better than Lamar.
Burrow, no.
No.
Deshaun, no.
What about Kenny?
I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy.
I'm not a Kenny Pickett guy either. I think they're better than Kenny Pickett. I'll take him over Mac Jones. I'll take him over Tua.
Take him over Tua?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Man, how many quarters of Tua are you getting?
I don't know, but I'm just assuming he's healthy. He's played pretty good with them. And then you have Aaron Rodgers, no. So, yeah. So
I guess the way I'm thinking about it is if I plopped them into that exact same situation, would I expect them to perform better than the current quarterback? In which case I would take them over Tua. I think Tua is in a very cushy system that plays to his strengths, and which I don't think they're
going to be the same system, right? So hopefully Slowick can run at the
We're not going to have Tyree kill. That guy helps.
What do you make of this report that Reich likes Richardson from Tony Pauline of PFN? I don't follow I don't know a lot about Tony Pauline's reporting. I'll be honest. I know he works for PFN. Some people would just look at it and say, "Oh, he has a check mark," and he has, I don't know. There's a lot of guys who have check marks who are dumbasses. Mike Silver. But I don't.
You can't say that.
Yeah, I don't really think that he's. I don't know anything about Tony Pauline.
I don't know anything about him. I mean, let's just talk about it at face value. I don't see how you take Richardson. I like Anthony Richardson a lot as a prospect. I take him in the top 10. I think he's got all the tools there. I think what he doesn't do well is correctable. But there's so much that has to be corrected and has to be processed. I think I can't imagine it. It would be such an arrogant pick by that offensive staff. And maybe they do. I mean, there's a lot of ego in these coaching offices, right? Maybe Reich, McCown, and Thomas Brown say, we are the best offensive staff in the league. We're going to take this ball of clay and we're going to make it work. I mean, you could sell yourself on that. I just also think it's a pretty fast track to get yourself fired if it doesn't work.
Yeah. I just don't is Frank Reich really going to be that aggressive? I mean, is this just no risk it, no biscuit? What will we be thinking? Frank Reich likes Richardson that much? That just seems, it seems insane to me.
He's also never had a quarterback like Richardson ever. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, this is his last shot, right?
Probably. Yeah. As a head coach. Absolutely.
I mean, is he just trying to, do you believe this? Is this a Mac Jones, Kyle Shanahan thing?
There's nowhere Tepper's doing that either. I mean, we got to think about the owner with them. I think there are two guys you can very easily sell. Stroud just showed off in the college football playoff. Everyone remembers the ball dropping as his fourth quarter comeback came short. And then you've got the 2021 Heisman winner. I don't know how Anthony Richardson works the same way unless you want to play towards the Cam similarities. I don't think Richardson's going to be in play there.
Yeah, if that happened, I mean, all bets are off at that point. I mean, Arizona's sitting on a gold mine there.
Yeah.
Assuming that Arizona doesn't doesn't trade before, like if Arizona holds off and doesn't trade, then Arizona's sitting on a gold mine there.
So we both think that the Texans would run the Bryce Young pick to the podium if this happened, right?
If
Richardson goes number 1, the Texans are like, we both think the Texans will take Bryce Young if he's there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I think Arizona could get quite a lot for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, but then they would regret have traded. But I think they're going to trade before.
Who do you think's coming up?
I know Jeremiah wasn't reporting, but Tennessee makes a lot of sense if they like Will Levis, because Tennessee it's the same argument except on a more extreme, more expensive level of the Texans taking a corner at 12. It's a much lower, but you can say, well, we don't need a quarterback because we have Ryan Tannehill this year. But much like the Texans have Steven Nelson under contract and Des King under contract, next year it's going to be one of your biggest needs. And it's a need that's going to be very expensive. And in the quarterback situation, it's not like you have 2 first-round picks like the Texans to where you can try to address this and all the cap space. Tennessee does not have a ton of cap space, and they've had to do a lot of shuffling, and they're basically going to be starting a whole new era. So
yeah,
you look at it from that perspective, where if you like Levis, you like Richardson, you like CJ Stroud, not only are you going up and taking care of something that needs to be taken care of, you are also hopping Indianapolis in doing that. So you're putting the Colts in an even more interesting situation. And I'm starting to lean towards the Colts going after Lamar Jackson, because I actually think you can make a case it's the safest pick for them at this point, as opposed to rolling the dice on the 3rd or 4th best quarterback, depending on how it all shapes up. So
as long as you're confident that Baltimore is not going to match, I would agree with you.
I could see Tennessee. I could see Washington, although that would be expensive.
16.
That would be expensive. I could see what's up with Atlanta? Like, what are we doing?
They like Ritter a lot. They like Ritter a lot.
Do they?
I think they do.
Like how much?
Like he's going to get the year. I don't
the
think
year.
I think they'll take a quarterback next year. I think that the build that with Arthur Smith is doing in Atlanta, at least from everything I read, I mean, I live here too, and the way people talk about it, Ritter's expected to get the season. If they're going to take a quarterback, they'll kind of let him bottom out. I mean, essentially the Davis Mills test, we're going to put you in this situation. If you want to keep the job, go win us some games. And if you don't, we like the class next year and we'll address it. So that's my understanding, is that they like him.
Okay. I mean, is Arthur Smith getting 4 years guaranteed? Like, what are we doing? I mean, I actually think Arthur's done an okay job, but okay.
Their defense has been terrible. I think Atlanta will take step forwards. They do have a really, really well-designed offense. I'll be curious to see where they go at 8. I know you want Bijan quite badly on the Texans, but that would be probably one of his most productive spots. That would be fun.
Yeah. I mean, you can only get so much from Cardell Patterson. And if you can get that much out of Cardell Patterson, what could you get out of Bijan?
Exactly.
That's the thing. And the Bijan case, and I'm actually going to put out a video on Saturday for Bijan. That's on the rundown. The Bijan case is not necessarily like the ideal scenario. I just think it can be an adjustment, if needed, for the Texans, to where you're getting one of the best players in the draft. I just don't know why people are so opposed to it. That's the thing. I just don't know why people are so opposed to it.
I think so he's a top 5. He's probably going to be the 3rd or 4th best player in the draft when I'm done with my board. I love him. I think the argument would be that, I mean, you went ahead, you gave Devin Singletary a priority running back contract. You gave him like 2.7 guaranteed. I mean, you gave Marlon Mack 1, for example. So you went ahead, you solidified RB2 is something that you don't have to address. And now I think this team has so many needs that you've freed up 12 ideally is going to go ahead and address one of them. And it's going to address a position that has a bit of a longer shelf life, would be the argument. I wouldn't be mad. I think you can talk yourself into it really easily. If they needed to win the Super Bowl this year, that's who I'm picking. but that's not the goal, and they don't have to rush this. They can build the correct way. And I think that Bijan and investing that kind of value at running back, just look at the contract, Landry. I mean, he'd immediately be a top 10 highest paid running back in the league, I'm pretty sure, with the first round contract. So you need him to immediately be top 5 at his position, which I think he could be. But I understand getting that contract at a priority position like a corner, an edge rusher, wide receiver.
Yeah, the corner thing is really interesting because I think you can get. I mean, I don't know. Like, when do they like Gonzalez? Do they like Witherspoon? Do they like Porter? I mean, like, I think that kind of matters. But if you can get the top corner at 12, that doesn't happen often.
No. And I don't think they'll get the top corner. I think there'll be a run on corners. Same with tackles. I mean, those are probably the 2 deepest positions in this year's class. I'd be happy with any of those top 3 guys at 12. Smith-Njigba is probably the only receiver I'd take at 12. Personally, I've been talked into trading backs, probably the best move, just to position yourself to move up from 65 or from 33 if you want to.
From where?
From the top of the second.
So you want to move back?
Move back into the first round.
Oh, yeah.
So go from 12 to 17, or my dream would be moving back to 19 and go, like, if Will Levis is still there, go get Tampa's future first to go to 19. But, get some additional value to go back a few spots from 12. And then if you're at the end of the first round and one of those receivers is falling or one of the edge rushers, you can come up from 33 and make the leap there.
Yeah, I think the aggressiveness, I actually think 12 to 10 is the place to watch for a trade. I think there's precedent, there's recent precedent, and I think there's a need for the Texans to get a receiver. And I don't know if they feel it or not. I truly think a lot of people think this, that know this team very well. I'll just leave it at that they like Jamison Williams last year. And much like they were willing to wait on Mechie, they were going to be willing to wait on Jamison Williams last year. And the trade back was kind of a reaction to Jamison Williams not being there. They traded with Philadelphia, and the rest is kind of history, and receiver remains a tough position. So I would say that if I were looking at a potential trade, and this might depend on Jalen Carter being drafted before 10, because some people think that the Eagles might be in on Jalen Carter. I don't know about that. I just don't think the Eagles are going to be in on a receiver with how much they have invested at the position with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So I think if you look at that, the cost, what it was in 2021 was a 3rd-round pick. The Eagles traded up with the Cowboys. They got Devontae Smith. Cowboys basically said, you know what? The Giants want him behind us. The Eagles want him. We'll let the Eagles have him. 3rd-round pick was what it cost. And you then had the Giants trade back, much like the Texans did when their receiver wasn't there last year.
It was Chicago, right?
Yes. And the Cowboys ended up actually settling for Micah Parsons because, believe it or not, they wanted corners. So none of the corners were there. So the Cowboys ended up trading up and getting one of the best players in the league. So sometimes it be like that. But the moral of the story is the Texans have done business with the Eagles. The Eagles are kind of in a situation where they're kind of luxurious and they can just stockpile picks because they're living lovely and they have the Saints top 10 pick. So maybe Nick Caserio picks up the phone if the receiver they like is there. It doesn't even have to be Smith-Njigba. That's my own agenda because I like Smith-Njigba. But
I was going to ask, who do you think it would be if you traded up to 10?
I like Jackson Smith-Njigba.
I do too.
100%. Like I don't understand. I don't see anything wrong with him. Nothing. Except, if you want to question him being hurt last year, that's fine. I think it was as much of a business decision as anything. But
I agree.
I don't know if he's going to get there. I don't know if he's going to fall there. I could see Josh McDaniels falling in love with him. But I like Jackson Smith-Njigba, although they do have Renfrow still. So,
all right, here's a hypothetical for you. Do you still trade up or prioritize receiver if you take Will Anderson at 2? If you, if you cower away and say, we're not going to be competitive again, we're going to keep kicking the can down the road, you take Will Anderson. Are you still trying to put together a competent football team, or are you just
they're not
taking best player available?
They're not tanking. They're going to try to win. For sure.
They take Will Anderson. Are they trying to win, Landry?
Yeah, I mean, they just don't want to believe in CJ if they don't do it.
What is the path to getting a quarterback if they take Will Anderson at 2? When is it going to
path?
happen?
Well,
Yeah.
did you not see the mock draft that had the internet going nuts this week?
But the Will Levis path? Is that what we're doing? He could break he could break Carr's sack record with what I saw from Kentucky.
No. I don't know what the path is. I think the path could be just Daniel Jones 2.0 Davis Mills thing. I mean, I
maybe if we pray hard enough, Kyle Shanahan will come with DeMeco Ryans, because that seems to be what everyone who wants Will Anderson thinks is going to happen.
What that Kyle
They're like, oh, they won with Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, and I'm like, guys, Kyle Shanahan's staying in San Francisco.
You just did what I hate, and you indirectly did it, Crumpy.
What?
You did what I hate, and you are part of the problem. You just did it. You didn't even realize you did it, but you did it, and you've done it in 2 forms now, sir.
All right, let's hear it.
You disrespected the running back, because this is my new thing, and I actually put this in the video today. Everybody talks about Brock Purdy last year, and Brock Purdy came in at the end of the year and he won 5 games, and they did blah, blah, blah. And they won a playoff game without him even playing good because Dak Prescott was so bad. The only reason San Francisco got where they got last year was because they traded half a draft for Christian McCaffrey.
That's a good take.
Christian McCaffrey made Brock Purdy's job easier. Christian McCaffrey had, I think, 1,245 yards or whatever in his 10 starts. They were 10-0 in the regular season when Christian McCaffrey started. They were 3-4 when he didn't. And then he goes and he dominates the first playoff game. The second playoff game, he kind of gets held in check. Brock Purdy sucks. And all I have to hear about is, well, that Kyle Shanahan's a genius. And he is.
He is.
And he can win with Mr. Irrelevant quarterback, blah, 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 blah. No, they won because they traded half a draft for Christian effing McCaffrey. Put some respect on the running back position, Crumpy.
Okay, and I do, but fine, we don't have him.
You do not. You just disrespected the running back position.
Because it is okay. Kyle Shanahan is the machine. He did it before Christian McCaffrey as well. Kyle Shanahan is he's like controlling you with an Xbox controller, and he takes it from Heisman mode to freshman mode for all of his quarterbacks. It's just not fair how easy he makes life for them. And that's why I'm like, guys, we can't win with Brock Purdy. We do not have Kyle Shanahan or Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk. All those. But
even then, they had Debo. Like the year before, they had Debo.
What do you of San Francisco?
Yeah, like the year before, they had Debo. Like I know they had Garoppolo, but they had Debo.
Was that the Super Bowl year? Or are we talking about the year?
No, the Super Bowl year they did it with Jimmy, and they did it. Yeah, I mean they didn't have McCaffrey, but last year, like I keep hearing like Brock Purdy, dude. If Christian McCaffrey weren't there, Brock Purdy doesn't do that.
I agree with you. No, he designed an entire offense around McCaffrey. I mean, because McCaffrey's that good. And that's the Bijan argument, which I know you love, because I do think Bijan's in a similar way. You could design a whole offense around him. But I don't think there's a lot of, one team personnel and then coaches like Shanahan who can do that. And that's why I want DeMeco to get a quarterback while we're here, before we're stuck picking like 12th overall every year.
I want a quarterback too. Like everybody wants a quarterback. Like
I don't just want one. I think we need one.
Yeah,
I think it will be a mistake.
So say who it is. Like that's the thing that I want it to be more about the player than, because that's the thing I don't like about the Bijan thing is, all right, if Christian McCaffrey were in this draft, like if Christian McCaffrey were in this draft, when would he go?
If you just took 5 years off his career and you said, here's this guy, and he's
if you were getting Christian McCaffrey, where would he go?
At that dollar value, he's probably top 15 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's more about the player than the position. Like if you think that Bijan is Christian McCaffrey, then it's probably worth it, right?
Yeah.
No, I would be willing to bet this, and I want to make this bet with someone. I would bet that in this draft, Bijan Robinson, because everybody talks about, like, no one would have an issue if you took a receiver, no matter who it was. It doesn't seem. I would make a bet that in the first round, Bijan Robinson, just his rookie contract, is better than the entire career of at least over half the receivers that get drafted in the first round.
I would not make that bet with you. I agree. I think Bijan's a stud. Like I said, he's a top 3 player in the draft. He's so talented. He just plays the wrong position. And I think and also if we did not have Dameon Pierce, I would think about it a little more seriously. I think
But
Pierce is a really good guy.
Do you think Dameon Pierce can carry the workload for the entire season?
I think, yeah, I think you got a guy who's going to take significant load off of him. And I think the carries that we did see from Pierce were explosive, his contact balance. I think he's going to look really good in this scheme. And I think Singletary is just good enough that you're not going to have to wear him down for 25 carries a game to be successful. And hopefully if you have a Bryce Young, that's going to help a lot too for how productive those carries can be.
Yeah, you definitely have to lower the workload. I'm just not like, I don't know that Dameon Pierce prevents me from getting a running back, you know?
Oh, yeah, and Bijan's good enough. This is a question for you. How many players on this team are good enough that you would not draft their position? Because I think there's just one guy.
Tunsil?
Yeah. They take it out of the context of this draft.
Like how early are we talking?
Like a first round guy. I don't think
think you can draft another guard.
Okay. That's fair.
I'm not saying that it's not because Kenyon Green's like some baller, but
like
I don't think you can draft another
If
guard.
you traded back and Skoronski was at 20 though, you're probably taking him as the best value on the board. Like, I think, right? Right? Like, is Shaq Mason stopping you from taking that? And I guess that's kind of my overall point. There's not a lot of guys on this team that would stop me from making decisions at the top of the draft. I just think they did kind of hit a home run with the Pierce pick, and it gives them a little luxury to go address some different needs.
CR713, if Bijan and JSN are both at 12, who'd you pick? I'll take JSN. Like, don't get it twisted. I would take JSN. 100%. So yeah, don't get that twisted. I brought this up the other day, and I was just talking about wacky ass stuff that could happen. And no, it's so wacky. But if I were doing a Madden franchise, like if I were playing Madden franchise, I would consider doing this. So it's wacky. It's really wacky. So, and because player emotions don't matter in Madden franchise, a lot of people who listen have already heard this. I'm glad you haven't heard this yet, because I'm gonna throw it at you.
I haven't.
So a tackle doesn't go in the first 11 picks, and Paris Campbell is there at 12, and you take Paris Campbell, and the entire goal of this is you tell me before the draft you're trying to make the best offensive line possible. So my main task is I have to make the best offensive line possible. So I take Paris Campbell, I put him at right tackle, I move Titus to left guard, where he played well last year, and Kenyon Green played some center at Texas A&M, and I put Kenyon Green at center.
Did he? Did he really?
He did.
I like that.
And now I also do wonder if Kenyon Green can still play center.
I know if you want to take best player available in the same boat, I know a lot of people have talked about Peter Skoronski with how small his arms are, that he's not playable at tackle, and then you could play him at any position. I think you could look to play him at center as well. And that same idea, if you wanted to build the wall per se for Dameon Pierce, for Bryce Young. So
that is Paris Campbell is the Ohio State tackle, to the people that are asking.
Is it Johnson?
Paris Johnson. I mixed him up with the Ohio State receiver. Yeah, I'm tripping. Yeah, I'm tripping.
You're good.
I'm tripping, dude.
I like it. I like the Madden mode to it, where you can just move players around. Yeah,
I mixed up my Ohio State Parises, the freak show. But yeah, it's not realistic. But that's just something that I threw out there, just for fun. You know, it's kind of that time. We're getting cabin fever. We've been in this for a while.
I mean, that's how Twitter arguments, like, dude, Twitter was awesome today. Texans Twitter was such a mess today.
Why were you so upset?
What was I upset about?
Dude, you said you were muting folks and stuff. What the hell's wrong with you? Why are you telling people you're muting them?
I muted that tweet. because I just did not want to see the replies to it anymore. At some point,
you didn't have to announce that.
I kind of wanted.
Sounds like you kind of wanted replies.
I mean, you gotta stir the pot sometimes. When you have a tweet that you just fire off, I'm like, hey, we really shouldn't pick Will Anderson. I'm going to put this out there. No one's saying it this directly, and then all of a sudden it has like 80,000 views, and you've got people really mad at you. You kind of want to circle back to it.
Jerome's asking about Zay Flowers, trade down from 12 to about 17, 19 and draft Zay, especially if JSN is off the board. He will be. Thoughts? Appreciate you, Jerome. I would say, I mean, if you don't like a receiver, maybe because maybe you're getting, what are you getting to go from 12 to 17? You're probably getting you might get a second for that.
Yeah, probably a good second round pick
you might get a second on the chart. So that would give you 2 seconds and 2/3 and a lot of ammo to maybe get back in even the back end of the first round. So you might be onto something there. I kind of like where your head's at.
I would like it.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the Zay Flowers thing, our receiving group's not very good right now, but I think it has a chance to be a lot better if they put some speed into it. And I do think that a guy like Zay Flowers or Jalen Hyatt would be really productive, and that they kind of force safeties backwards. They create a vertical threat. Maybe you get some better matchups for Nico. You create more space for finders like Mechie and Robert Woods. I would like him in that context for sure. Because right now, I don't think the group overall, I'm questioning who is going to win vertically in this offense.
Exactly. And that's the thing for me. You hear people say, and a lot of smart people, and we'll get to your comment, Rod in Oxford. Well, all Jalen Hyatt does is run verticals, and all he is fast. They need that.
I'm cool with that.
They are the slowest receiving core. And I'm not even saying that they can't be productive, but they have to be the slowest receiving core in football. Have to be.
Yeah. Oh, horrifically so. I have read up what some smart people say about it. And the argument is that, because Tennessee has that Mickey Mouse offense.
Yeah, where they put wide receivers basically out of bounds and just let Hyatt just run.
What I read is it's essentially the Baylor offense that produced all those busts. Good guy, because guys just don't get
right. Yeah. Terrence, I don't think Terrence Williams was a bust. He was okay, but yeah, the Art Briles
argument against it, I guess. But I'm cool with a fast guy who just runs go routes, because right now, if I'm a safety, I'm licking my chops with the idea of who's going to run past me. Nico Collins is probably the fastest receiver on the team right now.
Rotten Oxford, I'm going to need y'all's thoughts on Zerline saying Texans will wait for a QB. I don't know. Lance knows a lot of people, so
I hope he's wrong.
Hope he's wrong. I think I don't know if I hope that or not. I'm just kind of torn.
Landry, come on, man. We can't be doing this. You just told me you don't have a plan at the game's most important position if we take Will Anderson.
It's a fact, but I'm not going to try to force a plan. What up? I still think Bryce Young will fall, but I did not mind CJ and D'Amico because he can still coach him up, elite player. Sure. Rotten Knox again. CJ and AR are closer to each other than Hooker is to either one.
I agree with that.
If we get Stroud at 2, does JSN at 12 become more of a priority? JSN at 12 is more of a priority no matter what. Whether if they don't draft the quarterback, you should try to get JSN at 12. Keener 713, Pierce is guaranteed to be great next year. That's a hell of a statement. Lots of RB gems break out from later draft picks and become irrelevant quickly. Steve Slayton, for instance, is he saying not guaranteed? I think
that's what he meant to say based on the context of the sentence.
Yeah, I think he's saying, say that you're investigative. That's what I like, dude.
Also, Lane, I might push back. I don't think I would have to take JSN if we don't take a quarterback. I like him, but he's probably not a top 12 player in this class. I'm if you're going to push on the season and you don't care about winning, you take Will Anderson, then I'm totally cool to just take the best player available.
It's not that they don't care about winning.
Yes, it is. It would be a commitment to having no identity and being the formless Houston Texans for another season. It would be
but what if you try to force the quarterback? Then, I mean, we don't.
Okay, here's the deal. This is my question for you. If they take Will Anderson and hit, or they take a quarterback and miss, how different is the team in wins?
How different is the team in wins? If
How many wins is Will Anderson worth if we miss on the quarterback per season? 1? How many like that's what I'm asking. Like is your team situation overall that different if you miss on the quarterback versus if you hit on Will Anderson?
This is the Zach Wilson argument. Like can the Jets missed on a quarterback and they're still a player away? It depends.
Yes, no matter what, the Jets would be trading for Aaron Rodgers today, even if they took a different player there. The problem is they took a bad quarterback. They reached for the guy from BYU with the big arm. We don't have to reach. We can take someone who is consistently at every stage of his career been a fantastic quarterback and has traits that project really well, I think.
Would Will Anderson be the worst thing? Say he reached his potential. We have an elite edge player in the line of Nick Bosa that D'Amico had. Again,
we're an 8-win team. Let's do it.
Again. They had Nick Bosa too. They had Nick Bosa and Christian McCaffrey. It's all about the quarterback with this guy. Brock Purdy gets the credit for Nick Bosa being Defensive Player of the Year and Christian McCaffrey being the best addition that a team made last year. This guy does not respect anything but quarterbacks. This guy right here, this guy does not respect anything but quarterbacks.
Well, that's not true. I clearly respect Kyle Shanahan a lot. And what I'm saying is they did have Nick Bosa and they had Kyle Shanahan, and it still was not enough. You have to have a difference maker at this position, and it is worth swinging and miss. You know, I'm okay. If they want to take Anthony Richardson, do it. That's fine. Commit to trying to be something competitive for the first time in 2 seasons. I guess really 3 seasons. But I think they have to do it. I don't understand why you would take – I mean, I understand why you would take Will Anderson. He's going to be the number 1 player on my board. I love the player. It's just not what I would do if I was trying to build a competitor in the AFC today. I would say there are 2, maybe 3, if you like Anthony Richardson, high-level quarterback prospects. Take one of them. If you miss, ultimately, I don't think your team cohesive picture is that different than if you hit, unless Will Anderson's a Hall of Famer. But, like, there's no such thing as a sure draft pick.
We got a Case Keenum comment. You guys underestimate Case Keenum's grit and Coach D'Amico's culture. I don't know if this is serious or not, but there is a lot of Case Keenum love.
Are we serious? Is that a real thing?
I don't know. Military Z Boy, shout out to you. Thank you for your service. If you had service, and thanks for whatever. Agreed, we have to get a QB. I prefer CJ, but for the love of God, just choose one in the first round. He just wants a quarterback. Just wants a quarterback, Crump.
Just take your swing. Commit to being something. It doesn't have to work, but the right process is to take the guy here before you have to trade 3 first-round picks.
Now, why were people so mad at you on Twitter? What did you like? What was the
I said it would be
active duty. Shout out to the Military Z Boy. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. But what'd you piss people off for? What'd you do?
I said that it would be cowardly and a commitment to nothing to take Will Anderson, and it would be a great step forward towards becoming the Washington Commanders.
Wow.
Yeah. So I people, I guess, that want Will Anderson took it personally that I was insulting their intelligence, I guess, or calling them cowardly.
Wow.
But I think the process and
would you like to apologize to the people?
No, I would not. I'm correct. I would challenge people to look at the landscape of the NFL and how the league is working right now and tell me that that's not what the process should be. Especially, we think D'Amico's going to win games. We're not going to be here again. So no apology today.
Okay.
People were mad at me though.
Brown Chubby Bear said it's hard in these Texans Twitter streets. It's what
Brown Chubby Bear tweet of the day today, by the way.
Brown Chubby Bear was on it today. Unbelievable. I don't blame Brown Chubby Bear for defending himself because I've always said this about Brown Chubby Bear. He's nuts. He's a psycho. He's crazy. He's obsessive. He's insane, but I love it. He's a passionate fan. Yes. And he does not. I don't do this. Like, don't generalize. That's one of my main rules. Like, don't generalize. Don't say these fans, like say some fans. Try your best not to generalize, and don't try to put yourself above any other fan, especially if you're doing stuff that fans do. Like, don't try to do that. I don't do that. My co-host doesn't do that. Sean Pendergast doesn't do that. Seth Payne doesn't do that. So if you're going to, don't generalize. Brown Chubby Bear is a crazy SOB. You can say what he said is stupid. You can say that he says dumb stuff, but he lives this stuff. And Brown Chubby Bear's got to defend his honor. Don't talk to him like you're above him.
Don't tell fans how to fan. Like, fan is short for fanatic. People are going to have their opinions. I agree with everything you said there.
BCB is great. So you think he's a nut job. Okay, there you go. So we agree on something. Jason H
a lot of things.
Says today's Texans Twitter was hilarious. Thanks for playing your part, John. There you go.
Someone has to preach the truth. Someone's got to say it.
ALMAO says, I'll say I think the issue with Crump's tweet was calling it cowardly to pass on Stroud. How is it cowardly to take the best player on your board, even if it's unpopular?
Because you were willingly deferring the opportunity to become elite to make a safe pick and to stay formless. I think in today's AFC, you look at what it's going to take to win at this conference. You have to find an avenue to elite quarterback play, especially if you do not have offensive coaching. And to pass on that opportunity while it is right in front of you, there's no way that CJ Stroud is not a top 10 player in this class. That is, it's not possible, even on their board. I cannot imagine. And if he's a top 10 player, which I'm saying he is, then you take that swing 10 out of 10 times. And I love Will Anderson. If we were not in this situation, if Davis Mills had won us one more game, then I think that's a realistic avenue. It's not. You have an opportunity at one of these top two guys. You take your swing. You try to become a competitor. And if it does not work, you are not in all that different of a position than if Will Anderson hit. Or if he didn't. He's not a sure thing. None of these guys are guaranteed to go to the Hall of Fame or even make a Pro Bowl. So that's what I'm saying. I think it would be
swing. El Salas agrees with you. Appreciate you, sir. We need a QB at number 2. Not that hard to understand. There you go. Team Crump getting a little more.
Yes.
Thank
you guys.
Lover go get. Lover O get. Hey, Landry, I'm late. Quick recap on the Stroud visit, please. Any intel? I don't know nothing, man.
Come on, Landry, you got sources.
Don't know nothing. Don't know anything. Don't know ish about no murder. I was way in California. If you know, you know. A lot of people don't know. Crumpler doesn't know what that means.
I don't know.
With Bumby riding dirty, smoking purple all that morning. Still don't know. Jerome says, here is a crazy situation. Anderson at 2, JSN at 12. Then trade back into the first round and get Anthony Richardson.
Turn off the Xbox.
Boy, man, you're going from 33 to what to get Richardson? So you're saying Richardson goes past 12? Man,
it's not possible.
Woo-wee, Jerome. Send it home, Jerome. Tyler Olson, did you hear the text mad at Payne and Pendergast today because they had the audacity to say 50% of the fan base may not like a mock draft pick? I don't know. Text line can be crazy. If you think Twitter's crazy, the text line can be crazy. People talk crazy.
Yes. Landry, what's the demographic for who texts into the show?
A lot of people. 713-572-4610 if you ever want to, between 10 and 2. We'll respond to some. Some of them are just a little bit over the top. But I don't read Seth will get in a thing where he'll read someone called him a dumbass or something. So it'll be he'll bring it up. They do a good job of bringing text in, but there's a lot of stuff you ignore. Some of those people get crazy on there. They get nuts, man.
I believe it.
I don't know. I think the demo can go anywhere from in the 20s to the 60s. You can usually tell when the boomers are texting in though, because they got a certain amount of
It's very proper, I imagine.
No, they're the meanest. They're the meanest. The ones that text in, they're the meanest, dude. They're mean as hell sometimes, especially when you start kind of kicking McLean in the nuts a little bit. Gets a little bit. Ooh, okay. Crumpy reminds me of Jack Easterby. How you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
I would love. Please give a follow-up comment. In what way?
Goodness,
I'm really curious.
We are both white.
I mean, that's all I can see right now. We both love Jesus. We're both white. Does that qualify me to be? Is it because of the polo right now? Maybe
Maybe he
that's
thinks you're a bad GM. Maybe he
well, I'm
thinks you're a
not.
bad executive.
I'm not. I'm gonna be a physician, so luckily not pretending to be an executive.
He thinks you would be a bad GM. I think that's what he's referring to.
Let's see. I like how he doesn't try to dispute the what I said is facts, though. You
This
can't
is
fight
the
the
same
actual
fan base that booed JJ Watt. Not saying the situation is the same at all, but if it's Anderson, we need to give him a chance. He'll get a chance.
Yeah, I'll give him a chance. I'll just
But
criticize Nick Caserio and say that it was cowardly.
he is right about the JJ thing. There were a lot of people not there. Marika says not real Texan fan booed JJ. I don't know. I know a lot of real Texans fans who booed JJ. I don't think we can say that.
It's not 1-to-1. JJ didn't. People wanted a different defensive end. It's like God, who went before Titus? Andre Dillard. Is that who went before Titus Howard that people wanted to?
Yeah, that's Andre Dillard. They trade up for Dillard. And,
yeah, it's not the same. Those situations are different than a quarterback here in the year 2023 with today's league.
Pissed about that. You know who actually predicted Titus Howard? We actually had the audio of Figgy.
Oh.
Figgy said, we're drafting Titus Howard. Said it on the air. Predicted it. Boom. We went to the press conference. I said, if Brian Gaine, and I went on the rant that morning. I probably did an hour on it. If you listen, you remember it. I was like, if he says, I was talking about BOB. I was like, if he freaking says the word versatility, I'm going to be pissed off because I'm sick of hearing about guys doing stuff average, a lot of stuff average, and versatility. These offensive linemen need to do one thing. So if I hear versatility, if you're going to draft an O lineman and say versatility, then I'm walking out that First thing Brian Gaines said was, Titus Howard's an offensive lineman. He's versatile. I walked out. Talked to John Harris on the way out and walked out. And then there was like a situation where someone told the boss or something that I like made a scene and like walked out. And I was like, dude, you literally are making that up. Like that. I literally walked out, talked to John Harris like in the hall, and you're literally lying and making that up. And I had the video of the press conference, like, but I wasn't really going to push it too much because what are you going to do when someone's lying on you? Then what are you going to do? So I was just sitting there.
You proved your innocence.
Well, I mean, sometimes when you prove your innocence, then like the hardo like boss kind of will like be, I don't know, they'll hold it against you. So I just kind of
politics of media fascinate me. Not something I realized until I was at training camp this summer, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
What'd you learn at training camp?
Just talking to people about how everything works and the ups and
downs. You might be
talking
to the wrong people, though, man. I always worry about you young bucks talking to the wrong people and being steered in the wrong direction. That's what I always worry about, man. Because like the thing about media is some people take it too serious. Some people have the luxury of not taking it serious enough because they've been doing it long enough and they're kind of like in cruise control. And, you know, some people just didn't really have like the traditional media education, and some people had the traditional media education and they leaned too far on it. So it's just like a balance, man.
It's just also foreign to me. So I think it's all very interesting. It's because it's very different from the hospital.
Yeah, and it's cool, man. And that's why I like having all you young bucks on. Like, shout out to 713 Sports too. Like I like having like all the young bucks, like the ones who are, you know, on the digital scene and stuff like that. Like, because it's a lot. There's no right way. It's kind of moving. Like it's yeah. But yeah, I've never been in like media drama, I don't think. I'm just not really.
Yeah, glad to hear that.
But I'm a confrontational person. But I'm not like with media stuff. Like, man, what like radio? There's been a couple times where people have tried to force like radio wars and stuff. It's just like, come on.
Why would you give other people the free PR? Can't do.
I don't even know if it's that. It's just kind of corny, man. Like, I don't know.
Tell me your rate. It's not like Anchorman. Y'all don't meet up and fight each other.
No, I mean, but there's definitely some pettiness for sure. But nah, it ain't like that. Are you coming back up this year or not?
No, I'm not coming for the draft. I'll come back in the summer. I'll be at training
No,
camp.
are you going to training camp?
Yeah, I'll be there for a few days.
Okay. So. You gonna get some sun this time? You're looking a little pale last time.
My body doesn't really do that.
We'll
see. This time I don't have to go to the hospital for like 2 months, which is great. I'm just in study and research mode. So hopefully I'm gonna do some stuff outside. I can go to the gym.
My wife's looking at me like, what is wrong with you talking about this dude's paleness?
I mean, it's fair. I'm a remarkably pale person. I can't deny that.
Hey, but you're saving lives, dude.
Trying to get in there. Yeah,
so you're good. But yeah, it's all fun. I like watching y'all from afar argue on Twitter. That's the one thing that I can't use it like that, man. Like it's not really
sometimes I just stop responding because I'm like, okay, there's not like any information that's gonna change people's minds here. So I hear you on that.
Yeah. You're not pale, dude.
I hate you, man. Unbelievable. We got any more comments, Landry?
There's a comment about Tyree Wilson that I want to talk about. That DN from Texas Tech stay hurt. We already had experience like that with Stingley. First of all, I think Stingley got shut down for just caution last year. So I wouldn't look at Stingley as like a negative. We got to see him in this system. But what do you think of Tyree Wilson?
I think he's a good player. I think he needs some development for sure. I think it's a lot of projecting of traits. He's going to go in the top 10. If he was there at 12, I'd take him. For Houston, I'm not taking him at 2. I'm definitely not taking him over Will Anderson, who is one of the SEC's most productive pass rushers ever, and is 2 years younger, played 2 years less of college ball. I like Tyree fine. I cannot believe that he's higher on NFL team boards, and I believe it. I mean, a lot of people saying it, a lot of well-sourced people saying that teams might prefer Wilson, but Anderson's production profile and like the athletic traits that he has of his own, I would be taking that all day.
Rotten Oxford asking, I'm all for QB at 2, but everyone in the AFC trying to fight fire with fire when it comes to QBs. What if we tried fighting fire with water?
You end up playing a team like Buffalo, who does both really well, or Cincinnati in 2021. And it's just there's no way around it, I don't think. I mean, we saw San Francisco got close this year, I guess, but they had to have, like you said, Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Shanahan and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. I think there is not a great way in today's game to circumnavigate having to have an elite quarterback. So
Vincent asked, do you think they go back in the first or second round? Yeah, I do. I think they're going to trade picks in some way, shape, or form. I don't think they're going to use all 12 picks. So whether it's trade for more picks next year and just keep pushing them back, I don't anticipate them doing that as much. Jerome talking about Stingley. Not going to lie, when Stingley did play man, he got cooked. Still believe in him. I don't know if he got cooked. There were a couple like rough there were some rough times. I don't know what the hell it was, but sometimes it seemed like he was playing man zone. Like, I don't know. Sometimes there were times where I don't know what he was supposed to be doing. And it almost seemed like he was being told to do. I don't know if he was confused or what, but there was times where he was like zone man. I don't know. I think
they did not put him in a good position. I'm largely going to throw out what we saw last season that was low, and just I'm willing to put a lot of blame on how poorly that system played to his strengths. I think we're going to see a different player this year. Are we ever going to see a first-team All-Pro out of Stingley? We'll see. But I think Stingley's got a good chance to still be a really good, productive player in this league.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll judge him this year. Crumpler,
exactly.
I appreciate you, man.
Landry, thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Hopefully
you did make fun of me a little bit, so
I did not make fun of you.
Cry.
I did not make fun of you. I just said that you could use some sun. That is all I said. Look at me.
You're correct.
I need sun too. But when I'm out there in that heat, the Native American side of me just kind of sticks out, and I can flip the switch a little bit every once in a while. You can too, man. You know, Dookie Howser wasn't tan. Dookie Howser. You don't even know who Dookie Howser is.
Okay, I know who Doogie.
You know who Doogie Howser is?
Yeah, because that's what people have called me that.
That's what they call you.
My patients have said that before.
So you know something. Okay, so I'm not aging myself too much.
No, you can't be that much older than me.
We'll see.
Okay.
All right, Crumpy, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Landry, I appreciate it. Guys, if you're not, give me a follow on Twitter at John H. Crumpler. I'm going to hit 4K this month, which I'm pretty excited about. And make sure you're reading the Texans.
You need to read his stuff, too.
Yes, make sure you're checking out the Texans Wire. Go read got a full report on CJ Stroud, a lot of what I talked about tonight. I think he's the right guy for Houston, number 2, if Bryce Young is not available. So that's my piece.
Someone's asking which tribe. Cherokee, sir. Cherokee. Great grandpa, full blood. Cherokee.
All right, Landry.
Can't tell from the pastiness, but yeah. Crumpy, I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, brother. It's my guy, John Crumpler. The man, the myth, the legend. Love him very much. Man, now we're getting on me for being pale. Hey, I'm just talking about in the summer. I'm pale as hell right now. Look at this. This light. He might have a little more sun than me right now, but wait till we get out in the sun. During training camp. Hopefully you guys will be out there as well. I appreciate y'all for coming through. Follow Crumpler. He's out there on those Twitter streets. I like to watch from afar. Very much enjoy it. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Appreciate everyone for interacting and stuff. No matter what happens with the Texans, just remember when it comes to these Texan streets, we are all in this together. Have a good one, folks. Damn, I'm pale.